Hey everyone, and welcome back for our 6th deep dive. This time, we're looking at a really interesting podcast episode. Have you heard of JohnChat? Let's chat with John.
Yeah, I have. It's pretty big in Taiwan. The host is Professor John. He's from National Taiwan Normal University. And he actually won the Golden Bell Award for Best Host back in 2024.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's like the top award for radio in Taiwan. So we're talking about like a real pro here. And the episode we're looking at today has this incredible guest, Lin Yusu. He's a double national swimming record holder.
Whoa, 2 national records. What events?
So he holds the records for the 100-meter breaststroke and the 50-meter freestyle. Talk about dedication. But you know what's really fascinating? This episode really goes into the struggles that he faced, even while he was breaking these records.
Oh, so there's more to it than just talent and hard work.
For sure. Like, get this. Just 3 months before the competition, he had this really bad ankle injury. And then during the swims where he actually broke those records, he had a high fever.
Wow. That's some serious perseverance. It makes you wonder how we could even compete, let alone win.
I know, right? And here's the really crazy part. Are you ready for this? Lin Yusu did all of this without using his hands.
Wait, what? He broke national swimming records without using his hands. How is that even possible?
I know, it's mind-blowing, right? So he was actually born without hands. But you know that hasn't stopped him. This episode really shows how resourceful he is and how he adapts, not just in the pool, but in his everyday life too.
Wow. That must take so much mental strength to not just adapt, but to actually excel at such a high level.
Yeah, for sure. Like, can you imagine just taking off your jacket with your feet?
I can't even imagine trying to time my shoes with my feet, let alone taking off a jacket.
Right. And there's this story he tells about being in a home economics class, and he was determined to thread needle. Even though everybody else was using their hands, he found a way to do it with his feet.
That's incredible. It just shows you how he refuses to let anything stop him. Physical limitations, anything. It really puts things into perspective.
It does. And he talks about the challenges with weight training. Because, you know, a lot of the equipment is designed for people with hands. So it really limits his options. Makes you think about how many things we take for granted.
You're right. It really makes you appreciate his resilience and his creativity in finding ways to train. It'd be really interesting to see what other exercises could be adapted, you know, to meet different needs and abilities.
Definitely. But here's where the conversation gets really interesting. You know, after he reached this goal, breaking those 2 national records, Lin Yusu found himself struggling. He felt empty and like he didn't know what to do next.
Wow, that's so unexpected. You would think achieving something like that would make you super happy and fulfilled. Why do you think he felt that way?
Well, he talks about how his whole life revolved around training and competing. That was his goal. It was what fueled him.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he actually reached it, it's like a part of him was lost. He even said he felt a bit lost and wasn't sure what to do next.
That makes sense. Athletes often spend years, sometimes their whole lives, going after one specific goal. It becomes their identity, their purpose. And when they finally achieve it, it can leave this void.
Exactly. And it's not like there's a clear path for what to do after that. It's all new territory. And it sounds like he's still figuring things out.
It's important to remember that even incredible people like Lin Yusu can go through these very human emotions. It reminds us that success doesn't always look or feel the way we expect.
Absolutely. And it's something we can all relate to, you know, whether it's reaching a personal goal or going through a major change in life. It's that feeling of, okay, what now?
Exactly. What's fascinating here is how this conversation shows the complexity of being human, even when you've achieved amazing things.
It really does. And even though he's going through these challenges, Lin Yusu hasn't given up on swimming. He's actually thought about competing internationally. But there have been some obstacles there, too.
Oh, really? What kind of obstacles?
Well, you talked about how there are limited opportunities. For disabled athletes in Taiwan, it sounds like they have fewer resources and less support compared to athletes without disabilities.
That's a big hurdle. And unfortunately, it's a reality for a lot of disabled athletes around the world. It shows that we need more awareness and more people fighting for inclusivity in sports.
Yeah, it's a shame that he's facing those limitations. It sounds like he has so much more to give.
He really does. And it just shows you, achieving success, it's not always straightforward. Sometimes you hit a milestone, and it brings a whole new set of challenges.
It's like they say, the only way is through. He's overcome so much, and now he's dealing with all these new, unexpected feelings. I wonder how someone like him finds the strength to keep going, to find that motivation again.
That's a really good question. And, Professor John actually brings that up in the episode. Remember how we talked about how he doesn't edit or censor his conversations?
Right. He wants to keep things real and genuine. Yeah, and you can really see that in this episode. Professor John asks Lin Yusu directly, how are you handling all of this? And Lin Yusu is so honest and open about what he's going through.
That kind of vulnerability is powerful, it shows us. That even someone who's achieved incredible things can still struggle with uncertainty and doubt.
Exactly. It's like a reminder. We're all human. No matter what we've accomplished, we all have those moments where we question ourselves, our purpose, what we're really striving for.
It's part of being human, definitely, and it's something we need to talk about more.
I agree. And you can really feel that Professor John is truly interested in Lin Yusu's story. It's not just about his achievements in swimming. It's about understanding him as a person.
Yeah, his interview style is really engaging. It feels more like a conversation between friends than a formal interview.
It does, and that's what makes JohnChat so special. It's not just about giving information. It's about creating a space for real connection and authentic expression.
It's so refreshing to hear a podcast like that, where the conversation is just raw and unfiltered.
It is. It makes you feel like you're right there with them, just listening to two people connecting.
And it sounds like Professor John is always looking for new guests to come in and share their stories.
He is. At the end of the episode, he actually encourages the listeners to think about applying to be guests. He says it doesn't matter if your story is about triumph or struggle or just everyday life. He wants to hear it.
That's amazing. He's really committed to creating a platform for all kinds of voices and perspectives.
And, speaking of platforms, you mentioned that Professor John won the Golden Bell Award. It's so cool that he's using that recognition to highlight stories like Lin Yusu's, stories that might not get much attention otherwise.
Yeah, it's so important to have those voices amplified, especially these days when the media often focuses on sensationalism instead of real substance.
Exactly. And JohnChat seems to be doing a fantastic job of providing that space for real storytelling and meaningful conversations.
It's really inspiring to see. It makes you think about the power of storytelling and how sharing our experiences can create such deep connections.
Totally agree. You never know who might be listening and how your story might affect them.
It's like a ripple effect. You share your story, it touches someone else, and they share their story.
It's beautiful. Makes me think about all the incredible stories out there.
Yeah, if you're listening and thinking, I have a story to share, you should reach out to Professor John. It's easy to apply to be on JohnChat.
Oh yeah, he made it really simple. There's an application form online. We'll put the link in the show notes.
Don't be shy. Professor John is open to all kinds of stories.
He is. He made a point of saying he's not looking for perfectly polished presentations or anything like that. He just wants to hear your authentic voice.
So if you're feeling inspired, go for it.
Absolutely. You never know what amazing opportunities might come up just from sharing your story.
And hey, maybe someday we'll be deep diving into your episode.
That would be something. But for now, let's get back to Lin Yusu's story. We were talking about the lack of opportunities for disabled athletes in Taiwan.
Right. I'm curious to hear how Professor John and Lin Yusu addressed that in the podcast.
Well, Professor John didn't just leave it at that. He actually suggested that Lin Yusu could use his own experience as a way to advocate for change.
That's interesting. What did Lin Yusu think about that?
He seemed open to it. Professor John even suggested that maybe Lin Yusu could start his own podcast or even do a series within JohnChat focused on disability rights and inclusion.
That would be amazing. It would give him a powerful platform to share his story and his insights and to really fight for greater awareness and support for disabled athletes.
Exactly. And I think it could really resonate with people. Hearing those firsthand accounts of the challenges and triumphs, it can be so powerful.
For sure. It could inspire other athletes with disabilities to chase their dreams and to advocate for more inclusion in sports.
It could even spark conversations and inspire action among people who maybe haven't thought about these issues before.
Exactly. It's all about creating that ripple effect of awareness and understanding. And it all starts with one person sharing their story.
It's amazing how a simple conversation can lead to such powerful possibilities. And that's what I love about this episode of JohnChat. It tackles these tough conversations head on. And it encourages listeners to think critically, to see things from different angles.
Yeah, and it shows the importance of vulnerability. Lin Yusu's willingness to open up about his struggles, even after achieving so much, makes him even more relatable and inspiring.
Totally. It shows us it's okay to not have everything figured out, to be uncertain, and to be open to new things. Who knows? Maybe this conversation will spark something new for Lin Yusu, a whole new chapter, where he becomes a voice for change and inclusion.
I think that's definitely possible. It reminds us that even when we feel lost or unsure, there's always potential for growth and new beginnings.
That's a great point. And, before we move on to the final part of this deep dive, I wanted to ask you something. What are some other ways we can create spaces for authentic self-expression, both in our own lives and in the world around us?
That's a great question. I think it starts with being open and willing to listen to others without judgment. It's about creating those safe spaces where people feel comfortable sharing their stories, their struggles, their triumphs.
Yeah, and I think it's also about challenging those societal norms, the ones that tell us we always need to have it all together. It's about embracing vulnerability and seeing it as a strength.
Absolutely. Vulnerability is what connects us, what allows us to build real relationships and to support each other.
Those are great points. What other steps can we take, both individually and as a society, to build a culture of empathy and understanding?
Well, I think it's about being mindful of what we say and do, understanding the impact we have on others. It's about truly listening and trying to see things from different perspectives.
And it's about questioning our own biases, being willing to learn and grow.
Absolutely. For everyone listening, take a moment to reflect on these questions and think about how you can contribute to a more authentic and compassionate world.
Yeah, those are some great points. It really does take effort and being aware. Okay, so let's get back to Lin Yusu's story. We were talking about those limited opportunities for disabled athletes in Taiwan. And I'm really curious to hear what Professor John and Lin Yusu talked about.
Me too. It's a really complicated issue.
It is. But Professor John didn't just stop at talking about the problem. He actually suggested that Lin Yusu could use his experience to advocate for change.
That's a cool idea. What did Lin Yusu think about that?
He seemed to like the idea. Professor John even suggested that maybe Lin Yusu could have his own podcast, or even a series within JohnChat, focusing on disability rights and inclusion.
Wow. That would be amazing. He would have such a powerful platform to share his story and his perspective and to really push for change, more awareness and support for athletes with disabilities.
Right. And I think it'd be so impactful for listeners to hear those firsthand accounts of the challenges and the successes.
Absolutely. It could inspire other athletes with disabilities to go after their dreams and to fight for their place in the world of sports.
And it could start conversations and inspire action among people who haven't really considered these issues before.
It's all about creating that ripple effect, raising awareness, and helping people understand.
It's pretty amazing how just one conversation can lead to so many possibilities. And that's what I really appreciate about this episode of JohnChat. It doesn't shy away from these tough topics, and it encourages the listeners to really think and to consider different viewpoints.
And it really highlights the power of being vulnerable. Lin Yusu being so open about his struggles, even after achieving all that he has, it just makes him even more relatable and inspiring.
It really does. It shows us it's okay to not have it all figured out. It's okay to be uncertain and to be open to exploring new possibilities. Who knows? Maybe this is the start of a new chapter for Lin Yusu, where he becomes an advocate for change and inclusion.
Yeah, maybe. It's a good reminder for all of us that even when we feel lost or unsure, there's always room for growth and new beginnings.
I think that's a perfect note to end on. This deep dive has been a great reminder that success doesn't always follow a straight line, that the journey is just as important as the destination. And even when we achieve amazing things, there's always more to learn, more to explore, and more to share.
Absolutely. It's a testament to podcasts like JohnChat. They give people a platform to tell their stories authentically and to connect with others who have different experiences and perspectives.
Couldn't agree more. So if you're looking for a podcast that will challenge you and make you think and feel and inspire you with real stories, you should definitely check out JohnChat. Let's chat with John.
And hey, if you're feeling inspired and you have a story to share, reach out to Professor John. Who knows? Maybe we'll be deep diving into your episode someday.
That would be fantastic. But until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the world of podcasts. We'll see you on our next deep dive.